Welcome to the Season 3 of Maker Club by EEFocus in partnership with the Hackaday Prize, a world-renowned hardware design contest, and DigiKey, a global leader of distribution of electronic components and automation products worldwide. As our long-term partner, DigiKey would like to work with electronic engineers around the world to create and change life with technology constantly. Let's discover the splendidness created by makers together. In this episode, we're going to interview Henk, a maker from the Netherlands. He is the co-founder of the Troublemaker Makerspace, which specializes in providing professional prototyping and hardware acceleration services for foreign makers in Shenzhen. As a maker and maker service provider, please introduce yourself first.
Yes, let's do this. My name is Henk Werner. I'm born in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And my maker journey, I think, started very early when my dad bought for me like a chemistry experiment box, and I always bought for myself like model car kits to build model cars, model airplanes, model spaceships myself. And as a professional maker, I have helped a company develop the LED systems in football. So when you watch TV and you see the advertisements on TV, we were working with the system, and I totally redesigned the system to have a 35% lower total cost of ownership over a period of 7 years, and that made the company become market leader in 2 years' time. And then later, when I moved here to China, I helped Nokia with the development and the production of a 3-meter high headphone-shaped LED furniture, which they used to introduce the Lumia phones to the market. So the change from maker to service provider happened when I wanted to make a product for myself, and I needed to learn how to use a 3D printer and a CNC machine. So the idea was to join an existing makerspace. And we visited 25 makerspaces, and we found that 20 of them didn't even have any tools, and there were no people around who could teach me anything. And some of the others, they had a room with machines, but the lights were off, the machines were broken, and the management didn't know the machines were broken. So there was really nothing what I could learn. And then together with 3 other European friends, we started Troublemaker. And there, I never got to make my own product, because right from the beginning, people came in and started to ask advice and started to use our machines. So my life became not developing products, but helping people developing products.
When you first came to Shenzhen in 2009, you planned to settle there. What were your considerations when you made this decision? How have these factors developed and changed compared to today?
Yeah, so the first time I came to China was in 2009. That time was only for 4 days to do the quality control for the scoreboards, LED scoreboards for Ajax Amsterdam, for the training fields. And that's more like an appetizer. That's not really like, now I want to move. But 1 year later, when I was ready with developing the LED parameter systems for the football, I stayed here for 2 months. And in that time, I lived in Fuyong. In the evenings, I was in the street. I saw people dancing in the street. I liked the food. The evenings were warm. The people were friendly. And I was every day at the factory where things happened. Things were moving. There was activity. It's very different than from home, where everything is like a little bit boring, standard things. And here, every time, people came from all over the world to the factory for producing their products. And I thought, well, they need me. They need somebody who can help them make their product better. And because I liked everything of here, I decided, well, it's time to move. And then it's 6 months later, I actually moved here in 2011.
The name Troublemaker is very interesting. Normal makers focus on solving problems. Why did you choose a name like Troublemaker, or does it mean something else?
Yeah, Troublemaker is a funny name. A lot of people ask me about this. So of course, when you start a makerspace, you want to have the word maker in your name. And I believe that everybody secretly likes to be a troublemaker. Like, if everybody would always be nice and do the same, a lot of people think that's kind of boring. and it's sometimes fun to be a little bit different. But the real true meaning for me, when I think about troublemaker, I think about the small troublemaker, let's say 3, 4, 5-year-old. They see a friend do something and they also want to do it. They know they can't do it. They know if they would get on that bicycle, they will fall. They know they will get hurt, but they don't care. They will keep trying until they can do it. And that's the same with the people that come to our makerspace. They want to bring a product to market and they don't know how, but they see other people do it and they know they can do it as long as they get a little bit guidance. And they might fail, they might learn, but the chance for success is way higher because there are a lot of other people around who already went through the journey and who can give advice and who can refer the right resources. So there is not too much difference between the big troublemakers and the small troublemakers.
What details are worth mentioning about the specific content of the recent work, especially when working with different parties or suppliers?
A lot has changed over the years. Not only Shenzhen has grown, and not only did we have COVID in between, but when we started Troublemaker in 2016, none of the founders had any clue what we were doing. We were good in our own profession, but no one of us had run a makerspace and have helped others. So now, after 3 years being in lockdown and the borders are open for a year now, we already see people coming back. And it's kind of like a restart from 2016, but now we have 7 years experience. So our whole business model has changed from only focusing on the makers who come here to make a product to having membership offers for electronic engineers, for sourcing agents, for manufacturers. These people all need each other. And we have a package to make sure that, for example, if you are an electronic engineer working from your own place and it's difficult for you to get clients, we have a way to make sure that you can get as much as clients as you can handle. And the same for manufacturers. If you find it difficult to reach out to a certain target market, we have them in our community and they ask our help every day. So once we know that you're good, we can make sure that you match.
Looking back on the past few years of Troublemaker's operation, which project do you think is the most impressive? How did you help?
I think there are a couple of very memorable projects. Maybe I want to give 2 examples. And the first one is an off-grid solar startup from Australia. There were like 3 guys. They made a prototyping board in Australia and the cost for that board was very high. And they came to China to lower the price so they can have a business model. And I introduced my engineer to them. So my main effort was introducing our engineer to them. And then the engineer did most of the work. And he helped them lower their cost, their bill of materials, with 90% in just half an hour time. And then they start working with our engineer. They start making the first models. They win an international prize with that. Then they take this engineer to where they worked in Bangladesh. Then eventually they hired him as their first employee. Now they have around 50 employees. They have had seed funding, round A funding, and now they're doing round B. And they're helping villages in rural areas, not only in Bangladesh, but now also in Africa, to have a better quality of life. So I think from just having a simple prototyping board to helping thousands of people in the world getting access to electricity in a sustainable way, not having to burn toxic oil to get light, I'm very happy with that. And another example is I'm in a speech, I'm doing a presentation during a designer's event, and there is this guy driving on a self-balancing wheel, like a big self-balancing wheel, which you saw in the time a lot. And that guy was doing stunts on the furniture. He really clearly had years of experience. And he told me every single Chinese one wheel is unsafe. And he could exactly explain why. And he could exactly explain what it takes to make it safe. Now, this guy in that moment, he was couch surfing with a friend. It means like he was sleeping on a couch with a friend because he didn't have the money to get in a hotel room. But still, I invited him to our makerspace. I showed him around. I said, why don't you make it happen? And he said, well, I can't afford this. I said, well, who is talking about money? Just make it happen. And if you succeed, give me one of those things because I love them. And then at least I know that I'm driving a safe one. So in that time, this guy taught himself to use SolidWorks, started to rent himself out as a SolidWorks engineer. With the money, he bought the CNC work to make his motor, because one of the important things, you need a very powerful motor. And then, because he didn't have enough budget to let the motor be produced by someone else, he was winding the coils by hand, he was gluing the magnets by hand, and within 4 months' time, he was driving his first self-balancing wheel. And then he made some mistakes by working with the wrong partners, lost his IP, tried it one more time with another model, made again mistakes, and then eventually he said, well, I don't want to make a big one, I want to make a skateboard. So he kind of shrunk down his motor too small. And at that moment, we had 3 electric skateboard startups at Troublemaker. So this guy is American, and there was also a German and a Czech. And this German startup, they understood that his motors were much better than what's available, so they wanted his motors. But he didn't have enough money to buy 20 of them, which is the minimum order quantity. So the German team said, I want to pre-order 2 of your skateboards. He said, okay, that's fine. So they gave him money for 2 skateboards. With that money, he bought the 20 motors. When they arrived, gave 8 to the German, and they started to do their business. Later they started mass producing and they buy that from him. And then with the leftover motors, he started to make his own skateboards. He kind of stole my other electronic engineer, got a little bit investment from the son of a Chinese manufacturer who they do healthcare products, and started a skateboard factory in Nanshan district. Small, but they produce. And then eventually, 2019, moved that to America and started manufacturing in America. So from not having money to be able to get in a hotel, to running your skateboard factory in 2 or 3 years' time, I'm really proud of being able to help people like this.
When providing professional prototype design for makers, how to creatively play their own design on the basis of their own creativity.
2 phases where we put creative input based on the creative ideas from the client. So most of the clients, they first reach me. I sit down with them, give them a cup of coffee, talk with them for an hour. And in that hour, I understand what they're doing, and I kind of brainstorm ideas. So in that hour, maybe I give them 3 or 4 or 5 ideas. And there's always one of these ideas where their eyes go wide open. And I never thought of that. So that's my personal input. And then I hand them over to who they need. And that can be an industrial designer, or it can be a mechanical engineer, or whatever they need. And for example, our industrial designer, he will take the base concept of what the client wants, and then of course depending on what the cooperation agreement is, the designer will start sketching out ideas. But these ideas will be very different from the original design. So because the client wants to reach a goal with his design, so his design is very often a concept design based on what he can come up with. But it doesn't mean that other designs wouldn't do that better. So our industrial designer might do 20 different sketches, then think which 3 of them are the most feasible to succeed, then make the renderings from those 3 ideas, and then the customer can decide which one they go forward with. And then we also help with 3D printing and with 2 iterations, all for one fixed fee.
When it comes to hardware acceleration for customers, where is the room for more play?
I think our purpose is to help our clients and our suppliers and our partners with the acceleration of their project. And that can be the physical part. That can be For example, we had a team from Brazil who was working on a smart street light. And that was basically just a simple module which you can click on existing street lights, and then the dumb street light becomes smart. I wish it was so easy with people. But every time when they iterate a product in Brazil, it took 6 months. And then when they came to Troublemaker, they made a whole iteration in 6 weeks. And of course that is partly because of our network in the supply chain. Like the lab, they have the same lab in Brazil, that's not the difference. But we have people here who have many years of experience with prototyping and bringing products to market. They know who the right prototyping partners are for making your PCB. They know who can help very fast with rapid prototyping, 3D printing or metal prototyping. And that whole network of supply chain with Shenzhen speed is what helps accelerating the physical product. But then besides of that, we also have our accelerator program, which is usually like a 16-week program where we basically guide a founder hand by hand from all the steps, from understanding why you're doing this to having a valuation in your company, so an investor is ready to invest in you. So these are the 2 ways how we like to do this.
What do you think is the most important thing from the perspective of being a maker or serving a maker? At the same time, what other important skills do you need to master?
Right. So I think there is a difference between a maker that comes to China and a maker that doesn't come to China. Very often a maker that doesn't come to China, he joins a makerspace because he wants to learn. He wants to challenge himself or herself, and he or she likes to do that together with other people to learn from them and not necessarily bring a product to market. Makers who come to China, they have the goal to manufacture a product and to start selling it. The problem I see is they are product makers. They're not company makers. So they think about like, how can I prototype my product and how can I show it to an investor? How can I get money? They don't think about, why am I doing this? Why is this important for my customer? Why would it be a disaster if this product doesn't exist? And they don't validate if people actually want to put money in. So how important is this product for them? They assume that the idea will have a market, but they didn't test it. They also didn't build a brand yet to start selling it. They didn't think about how they will sell it. Will I go direct to consumer, or will I go through a distributor, or in any other way? And they also didn't really think about which sales strategy will I use. So this is only a part of the program what we offer. This is the first 6 weeks, and refining your design is week 7. So we start thinking about the physical product in week 7, not in week 1. So there is a really important part why a lot of makers coming to China eventually don't bring their product to market. They spend a lot of time and money in building a product and then are unable to sell it.
Overall, how long do you think you will continue to do this, and what drives you to serve makers?
Now, to answer this question, I think it is important to understand me and why I'm doing this. So, very deep in my heart, I want to have a positive impact on the quality of life of every single human being on Earth. That's a really big task. And that's not a task which I would be able to do by myself, and maybe I will not be able to do. But the chance of me succeeding, doing one project, bringing one product to market, what helps a certain group of people, will not serve the whole world. But by helping many people with a product that makes the environment clean, or that makes sick people feel better, if I help 50 or 100 or 1,000 people bring a meaningful product to market, my chance of having a positive impact on the quality of life is much better. That's why this is not a job for me. This is not like I'm doing this because I have to or just because I want to. No, this is who I am. So even if I would not run a makerspace anymore or run a community, I will probably still help people until I can't anymore.
We usually say that overcoming difficulties will make people improve. At the moment, do you have any difficult problems or annoying points that you can talk about?
So when we started in 2016 with a makerspace, we had to figure out the business model. We have received over 16,000 people in just 3.5 years' time. But we only started to be cash positive in the last year. And then COVID happened, and then we couldn't receive anyone. Now, we survived, we're still here, and we did reasonably well last year. But it's kind of like starting all over. It's kind of like being back in 2016, but now we have 7 years experience. So we have a much better offer and a much higher quality network than we had in the beginning. So I'm really excited about the coming year. It has been a challenge, but everything looks very good from here.
You mentioned that Shenzhen has the world's largest manufacturing industry and the most professional supply chain ecosystem. In the electronics industry, how do you feel about the ecology and efficiency of the current industrial supply chain? In the process of frequent communication with makers, what are the representative views?
I think in the basic supply chain, there hasn't changed a lot from, let's say, 2016 till now, or even 2011 till now. The core principles of manufacturing are still the same. What I see here in China is that the way how money is made by the Chinese companies has changed a little. There is less of there are more companies that understand that if you just don't manufacture this and then sell it to me for 10 RMB, but if you put it in the product which I would sell and put your own brand of it, you can sell it for 1,000 RMB. So you see a really upscaled manufacturing industry with higher end products with more value. This makes it more easy for system integrators. They can now basically buy a ready off-the-shelf product, just put their own brand on it and sell it. But for the makers, that is not really relevant because they have a unique idea. They have an idea of how to manufacture a product with different features or different qualities to solve a certain problem. And for them, all the core supply chain is still the same. They still need the same kind of PCBs, the same components, and the same design. So that hasn't changed. The chance that they actually will receive money from Chinese companies, I think that has improved. So an example is the American self-balancing, the Segway. The company was bought by the manufacturer who manufactured those Segways. And with a lot of more Chinese companies who need unique and high quality products to build a good brand with high quality products, they're more likely to invest in buying this kind of innovative companies.
As the founder of a well-known international hardware incubator, what advice can you give to these makers who are already on the road to start a business or are eager to start a business? What are the great opportunities in your area of interest that are worth pursuing and exploring?
But depending on the level of where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, like every idea can be worth exploring just to learn from it. But if you really want to have that product in the market, then just try to figure it out by yourself is probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because manufacturing is much more difficult than 99% of the people think. Like way more difficult. So first of all, we have an accelerated program which we run once per year as a cohort. You have to pay to join, but we also have the same program available for free for Troublemaker members. And the reason is, if you come here with the idea, I'm going to prototype a product and then get money from an investor and then we're going to produce it, that never works, because an investor needs much more security than just seeing a prototype. And if you use our program to cover all the basic needs, you build a valuation in your company, and it's very likely, or much more likely, that an investor will put money in. So if you're serious about your business, then learn from the people in our community, ask questions, implement the advice what you get, work with suppliers who can be trusted and who are assessed, and do your homework. Don't focus only on the fun part, also do the difficult part, because if you can't do that right now, then you probably also can't do it when you have a company.
It is not easy to reach out to foreign makers upward and integrate local resources downward. How do you overcome the difficulties along the way to make Troublemaker shine? Can you share some of your experiences or give examples that impress you?
So I think each of us, first the founders, we went through our learning curve when we deal with supply chain manufacturers, and we have made costly mistakes. And when people come to China, they are in the same boat. They face the same issues. It's not difficult to connect someone who wants to have something done with, I think we have 270,000 manufacturers here in the Pearl River Delta. It's easy to find what they ask for. The point is, how do we know that they're good? How do they know they're trustworthy? Because if we introduce the wrong partner, we can actually cause a bankruptcy because they trust us. So for us, it was really important to implement an assessment system. We only introduce a supply chain who we know have a track record of doing things right, who protect their clients, who think with their clients, who basically form a team with their clients. And that is something we had to learn how to do on the way.
DigiKey,